Hey everyone, my name is Karen McGill, and I am an ADHD coach who's here for the busy, ambitious brains that want to get schnizzle done, but sometimes they just get sidetracked because they can't prioritize things in their head. I know that because that's always been me as well. And in today's video, I am going to share with you everything that I would do differently if I were starting my coaching business today from scratch with very little startup funds. Now, why am I sharing this video? Because a lot of my clients are aspiring coaches. And when they come to me, they're either stuck in overwhelm or not knowing what to do next, or they're struggling with imposter syndrome or rejection sensitivity. So, whether you have ADHD or not, this is going to be helpful for you if you're thinking about launching a coaching business. I'm going to be referring to my Notion template, which is available below if you're interested in it, but you will definitely get tons of information from this, whether or not you are a Notion fan like I am. So if you find this video useful and you want to support the work that I'm doing here, I would love it if you would use my affiliate links, or you can also purchase the template that comes along with this video. So first, let's start with the pain points that this audience is dealing with. I want to start here because this is such an important step for any new business owner. Remember, when you start a business, your goal should not be just starting a business. It's actually solving a problem. So when I put this out to my audience, knowing that this was a real problem for them, I asked them for specific feedback. And this is some of the things that they said to me. Their biggest struggles were knowing what they needed to do to get started, not feeling qualified enough, having too many options for a niche, hello ADHDers, feeling overwhelmed around all the things they need to do to create good systems in their business. I love that you're thinking about systems. Knowing where to start and getting stuck on the minute details. And I can completely relate to that because I was there at one point as well. So before we get into the logistical pieces of starting a business, I want to address a couple of the emotional pieces that came up first, which is imposter syndrome, rejection sensitive dysphoria, and general overwhelm. So let's address those three things first. Imposter syndrome can come up because you're new at something and you just haven't developed the skill for it yet. If that is the case, your most important next step is getting as many coaching hours under your belt as humanly possible. It doesn't matter if it's paid or not. It's actually better sometimes if it's either not paid or people are just giving you a small amount. Because when you are starting out as a coach, you're going to have a lot of head trash around, am I doing this right? Am I adding value? Am I wasting this person's time and money? And if you are coaching for free or you're coaching for small amounts, it can help you build that coaching muscle, apply the learning that you're getting from your training, and also just generally build your confidence. The other thing that I find in imposter syndrome is a lot of negative self-talk. So sometimes coaches can have tons of experience and tons of education and background, yet they never feel good enough. That's not something I can address very easily in this video, but I do think that if that's what you're struggling from and no amount of experience makes you feel any more confident to launch yourself, that's when you need the help of a coach or a therapist to help you move past whatever internal narrative is holding you back. The same thing is true for rejection sensitivity. Sometimes it's just a matter of putting yourself out there and getting in the reps in order for you to start feeling comfortable with this new role that you've put yourself in. However, if you are constantly feeling crippling fear from moving ahead in any direction in your business, then that is always going to hold you back until you can really explore what that fear is, because your brain is holding you hostage. Whenever you think of moving forward in this business, your emotional center in your brain, your amygdala, is popping off and it pulls you out of your prefrontal cortex, which is all the executive function that you need in order to create a business and move forward with it, like planning, organization, prioritization, working memory. All of those things that you need are getting hijacked by the emotional center in your brain because your fear is so intense. So until you can move past that emotional block, the logistical stuff is not going to move forward. So I highly encourage you to get the help that you need. The last thing I will address is overwhelm. When we get into a state of overwhelm, the same thing happens to our brain. Our brain is there to protect us and make sure that we're not doing anything outside of our comfort zone because it wants to keep us alive. So when it sees all of these tasks ahead of it, and there's a lot of ambiguity, you're not quite sure how to do things, then you start with the black and white thinking and the perfectionism thinking and the procrastinating when you think, I just have to do one more course and then I'll be ready to start coaching. And if that is the case for you, I want to assure you that as long as you have the initial training that you need to get started with coaching, and the basic fundamentals that I'm going to teach you today, then you have enough to get started. So, on that note, I'm going to walk you through what I think are just the basic necessities you need to get started this weekend. Let's go for it. Now, one of the first things I've noticed that a lot of new coaches get stuck in is deciding what niche to be in. And you can argue for or against niches all day long. But to me, it doesn't really matter. In my opinion, it is more important that you know the problem that you're solving. Because again, coming back to this whole point about entrepreneurship, it's not just about starting a business, it's about solving a problem. So, depending on what that problem is going to direct a lot about what your niche is. So maybe you want to help new moms who are feeling overwhelmed and aren't getting enough sleep, or maybe you're helping people in their 50s who are struggling with midlife weight or midlife changes of some kind. Again, it's the problem, whether it's weight or not being able to get enough sleep, whatever the pain point is what your audience is going to pay you for. For example, in my business, the pain point that I'm generally solving is people, generally women in midlife who have just been diagnosed with ADHD, who want to move forward with something, but there's something that's getting in the way, whether it's either that sense of overwhelm, RSD, perfectionism, all of those things are the problems that I'm solving. I've honed in on my avatar over time. I did not choose those things out of the gate because I didn't know what they were going to be. It took almost a year for me to really hone in on the fact that I just want to work with entrepreneurs and creatives who are looking to make a change in their life. So in the beginning, when I first started my business, I was focused on that pain point. Now, I coached everybody I could find who struggled with that pain point and in any context. So for example, it could be a mom dealing with overwhelm or a middle-aged man who was in middle management in his company and dealing with overwhelm. It didn't matter what the context was. I was solving for that problem. And then over time, I was able to narrow down who it was specifically that I wanted to work with. And today, I coach predominantly women. I do coach some men, but I would say 99% of them are all either entrepreneurs or they're aspiring entrepreneurs or they're creatives in some way and they want to make a move in their career, but these emotional roadblocks keep getting in their way. So that is my audience, my context, and the problem that I'm solving. All of that together is my niche, if you will. But bottom line, when you're starting out, you want to think about the problem first, because when you're thinking about the problem, it's going to inform all of the copy on your website, all of the things that you talk about in social media, everything that you're going to become an expert at is surrounding that problem. So if the idea of picking a niche overwhelms you, toss it out for now and just focus on the problem. Now, assuming you've got your problem nailed down, the next things that you're going to need is an audience, an offer, which is a solution to the problem, and a way to accept payment. So let's jump into my Notion and I will show you some ways to think through this and give you several different options that don't include hiring a web designer or somebody to create a logo for you just quite yet. Let's say you are a brand new coach opening this template for the first time. You have defined the problem that you are positioning yourself around. Now you want to think about the client that you want to serve. I have this area in the template around customer insights, and it's a two-parter. So the first part is thinking about your ideal customer. Again, don't worry about getting mired in niches if that feels overwhelming. Think about the problem that you want to solve, and now think about the ideal person you would want to solve that problem for. And usually they sound and look a lot like you, either just 6 months ago, 2 years ago, or whatever else have you. But I love asking these questions about the ideal customer that I would want to help. How old are they? Where do they live? Where do they hang out? What are their financial situations? What are they struggling with? That's your problem. And how are you going to solve this struggle for them? Something that they are willing to pay you for, because if you're just posting things on social media, then you've got a hobby and not a business. The next thing I would invite you to do is create some sort of system for honing in on the pain point that you want to solve. So in my own business, I ask my audience a lot of the time, what's holding you back from doing X, Y, or Z? And then they send me their pain points and I collect them in a database. So what is the pain point? Why is it a problem? What's the solution? What is the input or customer feedback that I'm getting on that? Now, if you don't have customers yet, there's still other ways that you can go out and research this pain point. Research hashtags in social media. Go look at the conversations people are having in the comments of posts that relate to your pain point. Or another great one is to go to Amazon.com, look for books that address your pain point, and start looking at the comments of those books to see what people are saying about whether or not the book solved their problem, what they liked about it and what they didn't, and what was missing. This is where you want to spend a lot of your time as a new coach, building up the pain points that you're trying to solve and the language people use around it. And that is going to help inform everything you do from a marketing perspective. So let's go there next. Now, I've pulled up the content planner in my template, but obviously you can do this in whatever you want. But ideally, what you want is a system where you can capture ideas, flesh them out quickly, and get them planned in a way that makes sense for you. I always recommend that new business owners choose one marketing platform that they are going to focus on and then let everything else take a smaller priority from there. In my business, YouTube is my number one channel. And once I have an idea and I create a piece of content for YouTube, I will then use that piece of content for my podcast, my newsletter, and the other social media channels that are out there. But I'll tell you something. The reason I've been able to stay consistent in my own business is that I did not commit to staying consistent on all of the platforms because that's just not possible unless you have help. What I did was promise myself that I would be consistent with my YouTube, because if I had that, then I automatically had a podcast and I automatically had a topic for my newsletter, which were my top 3 channels. Everything else is gravy, in my opinion. So choose whatever works for you. Pick a platform that you are going to consider your main content platform and let the content on that platform drive the rest of your strategy forward. So in my content planner, I always have quick links to all of my channels and then an area where I can store quick notes. And then what I like to have is content by pillar or topic. So I like to decide what are my main pillars of content that surround the problem I'm trying to solve. And what are the various different ways that I can approach that content? Is it a how-to? Is it a contrarian point of view? Is it a listicle? Is it a personal story? What is the format that I'm using? And what is the pillar that I'm using? And what is the point that I'm making? Which all should relate back to the problem I'm solving. And once you do that, whether it's in Notion or Excel or a notebook or whatever it is you decide to do, start to build out a system that will keep you consistent week over week. So maybe Mondays you work on content ideation, Tuesdays you create the content, Wednesdays you edit it, Thursdays you upload it, and then Fridays it gets published. That's my system. You may want to do something different, but have a set schedule that you can follow every day so you don't need to think about this stuff. And then I do recommend that you have some sort of calendaring system around your content planning so that you can align your content to launches that you might be doing or special times of the year, or maybe planning your content around when you want to take time off, which is something we don't often think about when we start a new business, but we should. Social media marketing can be a great way for you to grow your business. But when you're first getting started and your channels are new, it can be really discouraging because it's also a long game. So what I would love for you to do, focusing from day one in your business, is not only pick one channel to focus on, but also from day one, start building an email list, because this is where your highest conversions are coming from. This is the only point of contact you own with your customers. And believe it or not, it's the easiest way to make sales in your business. Maybe you have an email list that you're already working from, or maybe you don't. I'm just going to show you what I would do if I were starting my business again, because this is actually the most important step in this entire process. And you don't need a website and you don't need to spend a lot of money. So let's jump into some of the softwares that I personally use and recommend and see what we can do with that. Now, I'm going to share something that might sound a little controversial, but I'm going to die on this hill because I think it is so important. When you're first starting your business and you're coming right out of the gate, do not buy a professionally designed website. Stick with me here for a second. When you're first starting your business, you have the beginning of an idea, nothing else. I can almost guarantee that your idea is going to have evolved dramatically. And if you have spent all kinds of money on getting a website up and running when you're just starting out, then you're going to be reluctant to make appropriate changes that might need to be made as your business grows. So instead, what I would recommend is having a very simple landing page, something that you can iterate on very easily, and send people to that landing page where it can, at the very least, share who you are, what you do, what problem you're solving, how people can buy your service, and maybe a few testimonials as well. Beyond that, you do not need much. Now, I'm not saying that a website's not very important somewhere down the line. Having a good, solid website with a good, solid SEO strategy is incredibly important. And over the long term, it will bring traffic and revenue to you. However, if you want a good SEO strategy, you have to be very clear about who you serve and how you serve them and their pain points. And those are things that you don't have on day one. So again, I really think it's important to have a landing page of some kind, and especially somewhere where you can collect emails from. But beyond that, you want to avoid investing a ton of money in a website until you're at least 6 months into your business. And I assure you, when I have my first session with my clients after they've paid upfront for their entire coaching experience, and I say, hey, how did you find me? They never say, well, I saw your logo and I just had to hire you, or your website was so good, I knew you were the coach for me. They always say that they found me through my YouTube channel or my podcast, and something I said resonated with them and they knew I was the right person to work with. And that is what I want you to think about as you continue to build out this business that you have. So given that we're working on the time frame of just one weekend to get your coaching business up and running, we're going to use Canva to start our website. Okay, we are in my Canva account, and I will say that Canva is one of the few softwares that I use in my business, and it is worth every dollar I spend on it. I have the pro account. I think it's like $15 or maybe even $10 a month. I'm not sure, but I get a ton of royalty-free images and videos, and you can do so much with this. But at the risk of turning this into a Canva tutorial, we're just going to go straight to what I would consider using this for in this regard. So I went under templates and then under business, and we're going to go down to website. Now, I'm not suggesting this is absolutely what you should use, but I just want to show you like one option that is so worth exploring because it's going to cost you a lot less than anything else until you do get your professional website up and done. So let's look at this one here. This looks like a good template for a service business. So we just click on customize template. And again, I'm not suggesting this is what you should use, but what I want to illustrate here is how easy it is to create a website. So you've got this template and all you need to do is start switching out the text. ADHD coach. See where it says see my work? I would put work with me, and that would probably link to the services page. And then here, wherever you see a picture, you would just replace it with something of your own. Here we go. Let's do that. And then you would just scroll down the page and it replace all of these pictures. And then you might do your one-on-one coaching package, and you could write a little bit about it here and the price. Same with if you want to do a group coaching practice, change out this image. The thing that I love about having Canva on the Pro plan is that they give you a bunch of royalty-free stock photos. So that's kind of a cheesy one, but some of them are really good and they can really elevate a website. And then you could put some testimonials in here, and then your get in touch with me page where you would probably want to add some social media links. And what you would also want to do on this page is add an opportunity for people to sign up for your mailing list. So if your mailing list was, I don't know, want to get clear on your goals and finally follow through, sign up here. And all you would have to do now, of course, this isn't thoughtfully designed or anything, but I literally did that. And then where it says sign up here, you would just hyperlink this, you highlight it, and you see that little link there? That allows you to put a link in. So when you put a link into this, Then when people click on sign up here, it's going to take them to your landing page where they can sign up for your mailing list and get your freebie. But before we jump into email lists, let me just show you how you publish this. See where it says publish website up here? Click on that. And then it asks, do you want to publish this with a navigation or no? I would say with the navigation. Purchase a new domain. You can do that through Canva. So for the sake of demonstration, let's just use the free domain. So that means Canva is going to give you some random URL. And this is it up here, which is very, very random. So let's see, we could probably edit it in some way and just make it a little bit more random or not. And then you can put a website description in here, and then you would press publish. Now, you're probably thinking, but I don't want a big random URL. That's fine. Until you have your domain and your website ready to go, then you can just use a bit.ly link. And if you don't know what a bit.ly link is, you can Google it. But here is your web page. And if you hyperlink this to all of your social media channels and anywhere that you appear online, then at least your potential clients have somewhere to land to learn a little bit more about you, find out what you offer, and get in touch with you and sign up for your freebie. So that's just one example of a very easy website that you could pull together for the time being. You could also try Wix.com, or Squarespace is another one that you might want to look at. But the idea here is to put something together that's super simple and easy until you're ready to start your professional website. So with that said, let's now jump into how to build an email list. So in terms of a mailing list, I do recommend having one from the get-go, because that is the one thing across your entire business that you own outside of your website and that is going to evolve with you. If somebody gives you their email address, that means that they are at least interested in you enough to hear more from you. So don't ever feel bad about sending emails, but get into a rhythm of sending them. I recommend once a week. And the service I recommend that you use to start out is Flowdesk. Flowdesk is a system that I use for 2 of my businesses. And this is the email system. So I also have the Fit Habit that I do emails from. But what I wanted to show you were the landing pages for your email list. For example, something like this is super helpful. Want to follow through on your juiciest goals? This 3-step process will help you get clear about your needs and wants so that you can finally follow through on what's meaningful for you. And then I ask for their first name and their email address. And then I ask them what else piques your interest. ADHD tips, ADHD business tips, coaching, well-being, and ADHD. And so they can click on whatever they want there and they would say, yes, please. And it would take them through to a success page where I would then send the first email to them. And if you want to see how that works, then sign up for my email list below and you'll see how that whole thing works. And then you hit publish and then it gives you this little link. That is the link that you would then hyperlink on your website. Here's another option that I really like, just a different format, but also asks for the same thing, first name and email address, and then you send them whatever the freebie is. In this case, it's a goal setting workbook. But these are so simple to make and customize, and then you just publish them and you get this link. You can put that on your Instagram, on your Facebook, on your website. So I highly recommend using Flowdesk. It is extremely intuitive and there's a lot you can do with it, but I don't want this to become a Flowdesk tutorial either. I just wanted to show you how possible it is to get something up and running in terms of a website as soon as humanly possible. And again, with Canva, you can also create logos. Like I said, I created my logo from Canva and I still use it to this day, but there's a lot of beautiful different options here. Some of these are absolutely stunning. I really like this one here, for example. So if we were to take this one, you just click on the text box and you replace the letters with your own name. Karen McGill, ADHD coach. And pop that in like that and change this to a C and that to an M. Boom, logo made. And then if you want to make this into something that doesn't have a background, either way, you just click download and you see where it says transparent background. You could download that and then it will just blend into whatever background you put it on. So I share all of that just to show you how easy it is to get up and running with a very quick makeshift website and starting your email list. Now, I know you're probably thinking, but Karen, how do I create a freebie? Well, think of the first step that you would want to help people with with the problem that you solve. So let's say I solve overwhelm for entrepreneurs. I might want to show them how to brain dump their task list so that they can start tackling them right away. So maybe I can come into Canva and look for a task list template. Here's one here. And maybe I want to use that one, or maybe I want to do something different, customize this template. So here's a cute little daily planner template that I could customize, go in here and say, okay, let's call this today's one thing, because I always encourage my entrepreneurs to have one thing a day to focus on. And you could customize this in any way you want. So the lists are endless. Oh, here's something fun. There's a gratitude journal that you could do. There's a million different things that you can do that are super pretty. And whatever you do in Canva, you can always download as a PDF that people can just print out and use. Or you can just head on over to Google Docs and create a freebie that way. So this is one of my freebies, one of my most popular ones, and it's a needs assessment. So there's a little intro about me, and then it goes right into the needs assessment. And then at the end of the needs assessment, there's some prompts for how to evaluate what you need to do next based on the needs that you've identified. I get great feedback on this thing here, and this is how you share it. Once you've created the document, it doesn't have to be this complex. It can be super easy. You just click share, and anyone with the link, copy link. And now you can put that into the Flowdesk freebie. So coming back to Flowdesk, where we have our landing page to collect emails, when you click into this thing here, it has a message option for you. You can type something in here like, okay, hang on tight, the workbook is coming your way, or it has various different prompts. We're going to keep it with the custom one that it has. So then right before you publish it, you have the option to display a short success message, just saying, hey, thanks for putting your email in. And that is usually when you want to send an email right away to their inbox, or you can direct them directly to that URL. So you'll see in here, I'm already directing people directly to a Google document. So once that's done and people go through that process, they will then land on this page, because this is the Google document website page. And they can then make a copy of it. They just go to File and make a copy. And then they have a copy that they can work on directly. So they can edit it if they want to, or print it out, whatever they want to do with it. It then becomes their copy of your freebie. So now you've got a website, you've got a place to collect emails, and you've got a growing email list. And you're going to put the link to your email list everywhere in social media and on your website and all the places where your customers might see you. And now all you have to do is commit to a weekly schedule of sending out an email to your growing audience. So now that you've got a basic marketing funnel set up, let's go back to Notion and I'll show you what I would work on next. So at this point in your weekend journey to launch your coaching business, you probably now have an idea of the problem you want to solve. You're starting to get to know the person that you want to target specifically because you've answered those customer insight questions, and you've started researching pain points in different areas of social media and on Amazon.com. You've also come up with a very simple freebie that addresses the very first step or a quick win in the problem that you solve. And you've set it up on Google Documents or through Canva, and you've created a landing page to start collecting email. You may have even started making a website on Canva. I would also recommend looking at Wix.com, W-I-X, and Squarespace. All of those options are available to you. They're all reasonably priced, and you can do it all yourself. And again, it's not that I'm suggesting you should do everything yourself, but when it comes to a website, if you do not have your branding and your messaging and your ideal customer nailed down to a point where you know that is the person and the problem that you're going to be working on for at least a year or two, it doesn't make sense to spend a lot of money up front on building a customized website, because you will want to make changes. Now, of course, if you are a web developer or you are very web savvy, then go ahead and knock yourself out creating a website that you know you can change yourself as your brand evolves. So coming back to our Notion template, which I'm using as our roadmap here, the next thing you want to think about is the offer and products that you want to offer your audience. So For example, here I've got product 1 and product 2. So let's say product 1 was one-on-one coaching. And what you would do then is put up here one-to-one coaching. And you might want to link to your sales page. I'll address that in a minute. If your sales dates are specific, meaning that you're launching at a certain time and closing at a certain time, and you have promotional dates that are preceding that, you might want to put them in here. You want to determine the price of your coaching, how many units you want to sell in, let's say, the first quarter or month, and then we'll spit out in this template exactly how much revenue you can expect. And then you want to walk through some of these questions just to get more of a sense of what it is you're offering and who it's for and how you are going to develop it. So with one-on-one coaching, you may or may not have a lot of promotional assets around it. However, if you wanted to do group coaching, maybe that's product number 2. And that one, you wanted to make the price, let's say $9.99, and it is going to start on August 1st, and it's going to go to August 31st. I'm just making this up. In which case, I want to design my promotional dates to be July 1st to July 31st. And I would also hope to sell, let's say, 20 seats in this group coaching program. And then this is what I should expect, just under $20,000 if I get all of that sold out. And I might have a lot of different things that I need to add in here, like slideshows or different assets and workbooks that I'm giving my group coaching program. So a place to plan all of that stuff is super important. And then you can also attach a client name. I have a client CRM in this template if you wanted to use that. But just generally somewhere where you can track your offers and links to your product pages is super important, because when somebody says, hey, send me a link to your one-on-one coaching, you can then just grab it right here and send it to them. So this is just something to help you think through what your product and offerings are. I also recommend having some digital products, because sometimes you're going to want to take time off from your actual coaching and all you offer is one-on-one coaching, then you're not getting paid that week. So thinking about digital products is a really important thing. For example, this template is a digital product. So now you've got the problem that you're solving, the audience that you're targeting, you've got a content plan in place, you've started an email list, you've started emailing your list every week, and you've also come up with your first offers. Now you want to take these moving pieces and put them into a strategic planner, a planner for your business where you know every day what needs to get done in order to keep the wheels on the bus. This is where I think a lot of people get caught up. Remember when I talked about overwhelm at the top of this video and just having so many different moving pieces that you don't know where to look next. So if you have a strategic planner like this one, it's going to make things a lot easier, where you can have monthly reviews, where you're actively planning your month and your goals, what your revenue expectations are, all the tasks that you need for the month. And if you have any help in your business, assigning those tasks to the people in your business. Having systems to ensure things are identified and are getting done is super critical. So that's why I've built out a task list here that you can use on the regular. I've put in a few steps if you're a new coach that you may want to consider. And you've also got access to a project tracker. You will want to have business goals that you're actually tracking towards. This is very important. And it's nice to see the progress towards the goals that you're tracking to. All of these things in one place is going to make the growth of your business going forward so much easier, especially if you're tracking things like all of the tools and tech that you use in your business. This is what I use, and those are links to all of the different softwares that I find are worth the money. You also want to have a system for tracking your revenue. You want to have quarterly goals for revenue. And then at the end of each month, you want to track how much money you actually made to see whether or not it's tracking against your quarterly revenue goals. One other thing that I will share with you is that As you do develop your brand and you do hone it in, you pick your colors, you have professional photos done, you have logos, you also want to have an area to hang on to all that stuff. So in my template, you have an area where you can store all of your different opt-ins, your coaching agreement if you have one, and there's actually a link to a template in here if you don't. B-roll if you do video, some podcast art if you decide to do a podcast, all of your brand colors and fonts, and a mood board if that's something that suits your fancy as well. The other thing I recommend storing is your bio and some headshots. So if you're ever being interviewed on a podcast, you can very easily send somebody a quick bio that's already pre-crafted along with headshots that they can use to promote the podcast. And then the one other thing I should show you in here that you might want to consider for yourself is having a CRM system. So CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management Software. So if you don't plan to have a lot of clients at any given time, this is definitely something that you can do manually, and you would want to use this CRM system. So here's room for the client's name, email, phone number, whatever package they've purchased, how many sessions they have, how many have been completed, maybe where their status is in their client journey. Are they just a lead? Are they active? Have they completed? Asking them what has brought them to coaching, what's holding them back, and understanding what their pain points are as they come into your coaching practice. Really important to have. Now, if you don't want to do a manual system, the other thing I highly recommend is using a coaching client portal. The one that I use is practice.do, and I love that software because it automates everything for me. Before I even meet a client for the first time, they have picked the program they want, they've signed up, they've gone through their onboarding steps, they've paid for the coaching in advance, and they've signed the coaching agreement all before they've booked their first session, which they also do themselves. So by the time I'm meeting them, I have a ton of information on that client, and we can immediately hit the ground running. And then after the call, I have an area where I can store any notes or any to-dos that I want to do for myself for that client, or any to-dos I want to give that client. So I love practice.do. It's one of the more affordable softwares, and personally, I think it's one of the best out there. I will also leave a link below for practice.do, and I believe that I have a coupon code that you can use as well for that. Now, practice.do, or any coaching software for that matter, is really good if you're going to be managing, I would say, more than 5 clients at a time. But let's say you only want to have like between 1 and 5 clients at any given time, and you want to keep it super simple. I would then suggest not using a coaching software, but instead leaning on Flowdesk, again, to help you actually sell, let's say, your one-on-one services. So another service that Flowdesk recently added to their offerings is a checkout system, and it's so easy to use. So for example, here is a one-on-one coaching template that you could use if you wanted to. You could put a little picture of yourself in here. I'm not going to do that. You could change all of this to your messaging, any sort of imagery that you wanted to put in. And you can, of course, delete any of these blocks that you want. And you can customize the fonts and the colors to whatever you want it to be. Here's a FAQ template. And then something about you so that people know who you are. You could use this as your website if you wanted to. And then, the call to action. So with this, you just have to customize the landing page, and then you go to the checkout page and it's all set up for you there. And you can add in a bonus offer if you want to. And then you customize what the delivery is. So the next action for them. So once they've paid, maybe you're linking to your calendar here or something like that, or at least the next step that they need to take in order to work with you. So I'll show you one that I used for a group coaching program last year. So this one brought in $5,500 in revenue, and it was a very small beta program. So this is just something I added at the last minute because I don't want people to find it and actually sign up for something because it's no longer live. But here's the program, a little bit about it. And in every section, I've got a call to action. I tell them exactly what to expect, call to action, details about the group program, call to action. And this was so easy to build. And I could use whatever colors and fonts I wanted to use. That's the checkout for it. And then at the delivery point, I'm so thrilled you joined us. What happens next? And I just tell them exactly what they're going to get and a few book recommendations to read before they get started. So that is how I have used Flowdesk checkout in some cases. Now that I use practice.do, I don't use that anymore, but it is so easy to use. And all you need to do is connect the Flowdesk checkout to a Stripe account. So if you don't have a Stripe account, you just go to stripe.com and set one up. It's called a merchant account, so that when people go to pay for your one-on-one coaching and they get to this checkout page, when they send off their credit card information, it will go directly to Stripe, and then you set up Stripe to send that money directly into your account, and they take a small processing fee. So with all of that said, you've got the problem that you're focused on. You generally know who you're targeting. You generally know how you're going to target them with the content that you're putting out on social media. You have a way to collect their email addresses. You're sending them emails every week. You're starting to set up a task list of recurring tasks to remind yourself to do that every week. And now you've set up your one-on-one program or your group program, and you have a way for people to actually look at it, figure out if it's for them, buy it, and sign up with you. That is the fundamentals of launching a coaching business. It is really that simple. So I hope that this small masterclass has given you some inspiration to move forward. And I will also say that all of these softwares have a monthly recurring fee, and combined, it's less than $100 a month. And if you can run a business on less than $100 a month, then you're doing something right. So I hope this was helpful. If you have questions, feel free to drop them below. Obviously, there's a lot of steps in between, but I wanted to give you the big milestones so that you could get started in one weekend for less than $100. So on that note, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Check out all the links below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.